Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Entrepreneur Athlete Podcast. My name is Mark Burik, and if you're here for Entrepreneur Athlete or you're here for the Better at Beach podcast, well, we've got a special show for you because we're talking to somebody who has started her own volleyball facility. So as far as a business side and somebody who's turned their athletic passion into a business, we're covering that, and we're going to get into some volleyball talk. So I wanted to use this opportunity to give you guys a dual podcast. If you're here for Entrepreneur Athlete, we help athletes and coaches and fitness enthusiasts turn their athletic passions into a business. And if you're here for Better at Beach Volleyball podcast, well, we talk about everything beach volleyball. So without further ado, we're going to invite our first guest on, Katie Connor. What's going on?
Hi, Mark. Thanks for having me. Excited to join you.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. This is going to be an easy talk. You and me are just going to hang out. And really, we kind of want to take a little deep dive into your volleyball business. So I'll have a bunch of questions about your volleyball business. And then if you have any questions for me or you just want to talk, we're going to use this just as a regular, easy conversation. Okay. The first thing I want you to do is I want you to introduce yourself and say, who are you? What is your sport or fitness passion? I've already introduced it. And then what business do you currently have?
Sure. So my name's Katie Connor. I own iBeach 31. We are a beach volleyball business, and that's really our main focus. We do some alternative beach games and rentals, but the majority of what we focus on is growing the beach volleyball game. We opened 5 years ago in 2018. We started with 6 outdoor beach courts. We added a 7th in year 3, and we piloted an indoor beach volleyball with 3 indoor beach courts because we wanted to be year round. We're in Indiana. So of course it's cold at least 6 months out of the year. And we are getting ready to build a brand new facility with 7 outdoor and 4 to 5 indoor beach courts coming in 2 months. That's
amazing. That's exciting for somebody like me listening who kind of wants to follow your path. It doesn't seem scary anymore, but there's a bunch of stops there along the way that are intimidating. And I want to talk about those today, mainly to help anybody who's listening and to say like, all right, well, what stops are there? Are there any actionable steps somebody can take? And I'm going to pick your brain about all the little battles you've had along the way and see if there's anything going on currently that maybe we can help with, or what do you call it? Brainstorm together. All right. So you said you started your business in 2018, right? Let's talk about COVID for just a little bit. Was that brutal right after starting that? Did you have huge problems? And if you did, how did you navigate them?
Well, it's interesting because we experienced what the rest of the world experienced, right? A complete shutdown. We didn't know what to expect. We didn't know what our business was going to do. And we had to shut down for our first 2 months. We do it in seasons. We basically break it into 2-month kind of groups, seasons. So we had to shut down in April and May, and June came along and we had no idea what to expect, but we actually doubled our business in COVID because everyone wanted to be outside, number one, and they were cooped up for months and they just wanted to get out. And so it seemed like the safest place to be active and social and to be outside within your own community. And so our juniors weren't playing indoor hardcourt volleyball, which is super consumed year round. And they weren't playing. They didn't have tournaments to go to. They shut that down. So we got the whole volleyball world come to us over COVID. Now, it kind of gave us a false sense of reality because we went down a little from there. But it definitely was a really cool experience to be able to open up with the world and have so much of our community come and play in a safe way.
Man, that's awesome. It's kind of disappointing. You would hope that once you catch this big wave, and I think I've experienced that too in a couple of different parts of the business where you get this big wave and you're like, yeah, this is our new standard. But kind of like sports and like fitness or anything, when you hit that peak, that's not your new average. That's still a peak. And maybe your low peak is going to be a slight bit higher, but for anybody out there who's like listening or struggling, you're disappointed after having such a great success, know that a PR is your PR. Like your performance record is your performance record. So going back down, that's natural. That's what's supposed to happen. But you've eclipsed this new level, which means every other level below you, it means that you're not going to be as low as you ever were. You're still going to drop, but now you've experienced the new peak and you can continue riding off that. But that's not your new average.
Correct.
Was that hard for you?
I think it was just uncharted territory. We didn't know what to expect, and all of a sudden we booked every tournament. We were sold out of every junior tournament. Our adult leagues were at the highest that it had been, and we didn't really know, what's it going to be. I think we did have some sort of expectation that it was going to hold. We were like, this is awesome. These are our numbers. And then we quickly learned in 2021, it went down a little bit, and then it held somewhat steady from there. So kind of like what you talked about, definitely wasn't a peak to stay. So yeah, it was disappointing, I think, to see those numbers and then have them drop. But I think it was a good learning experience to understand the business model and supply and demand and how it's going to go up and down. And you have to play with the market and what people want, and it evolves over time. It never stays consistent. So
did you find yourself starting to feel like you had liberty to spend more once you made more for a little while? I often get that. And then I think that they have this thing with personal finance. It's called lifestyle creep. Like once you make more money, then you feel like you're free to spend more money. So your actual wealth never increases. You're just spending more freely, which is bad for anybody who's trying to budget. However, you still have to constantly reinvest in yourself. And one of my friends who works for Tony Robbins, like Inner Circle, he's like, at minimum, 30% of your revenue, total revenue, gross revenue, should be going back into marketing. Not just all the other business operations, but just marketing. It was like minimum 30%. That was a big shocker for me. So I've found that I definitely get the confidence to, like, starting from where I started with $2,000, right? Then now, all right, so now you get 25 in your account. Now you get 50 in your account. Then you get 100,000 in your account. And all of a sudden you're like, we've got like 3 or 4 months here where I could invest in something smart, and hopefully my bank account stays at that level, but it's always been an investment. So for you, did you ever have that lifestyle creep? Did you ever have the feeling like you were trying to spend more, or that you could spend more? Or did you keep it really tight and reserved when you were blossoming or blooming?
I'm not the best budgeter. I am more like, okay, let's put it into the business. I'm more about giving back to the sport and the game. I'm working on the business savvy side of it, because I'm like, oh, let's build another court, or let's make the sand deeper, let's get better things, right? Better atmosphere, better. I wouldn't say we had a ton of money because we were still new. And so we still needed new things. I say needed lightly because, like, it kind of goes along with what you're saying. When you have the money, you think you have to spend it, and it becomes less of it becomes more in your mind as a need. Oh, we have the money, let's spend it. Let's improve it. But if we didn't have the money, we'd be able to survive with what we had. Right. So it's kind of that balance of, being patient and, a little frugal with a new business to prepare for that. But I would definitely say so just funny story. I have bucket list items of what can make iBeach the best that it can be for our people. And so I'm always like, I go back to that list and I have them prioritized. And one of the things that I wanted to get, because our seating area was a little rumbly. It was like broken grass, like not super eye appealing. And I wanted this blue turf. I just
Blue
wanted
turf.
this blue turf because I had seen pictures and it looked phenomenal. And I
Kind of looks oceany, right?
$5,000. Yes, it's like the
Like
water.
you got sand, so it's the water. Yeah, all right. I see it.
It was like $5,000 purchase, and I was like, okay, we're gonna go for it. We have some money, and I do have to say though, it was a good buy. Like it's been one of my favorite things as far as bringing the atmosphere and just changing the feel of when you're there. And so I'm happy we spent money on it, but that's one example of like, okay, did we really need blue turf? Probably not. Do people come for the blue turf? No, they don't. But it was a feel good buy that we probably did more of those things because we had a little extra, a little cushion.
And you don't know. That's one of the problems when you only have one facility. Your ability to test there, like, is the blue turf creating a home? Now is everybody comfortable walking around barefoot? So they stay a little bit longer. So they have one or two more beers. Without testing that, if you could go back and you could be like, all right, how many beers per capita or how much time per person are they spending in here? And then we put in this blue turf, $5,000 investment. Are people hanging out, for a longer period of time? It'd be nice if you had one of those super savvy business managers that like knows how to test absolutely everything so you can see if it actually worked. And then they'll get to the point where they'll like, you know what? Let's try out a red turf. Let's try out some soft padded ground. And if you have infinite finances, you can test infinitely. But hopefully you have somebody there who's just paying attention and saying like, all right, what do we want to do? And I know recently somebody wanted to change, one of our team wanted to change one of the pages on our website where people went. And I said, no, you leave the one that we built for 2 months. You tell me how many people got to the next page, and then you build a new page and you test that. Then you tell me for that 2 months how many people went, to the next action from that page. But you don't change to change. You change because you've tested one thing. So anytime, I think for anybody in business, anytime you're about to try to change or upgrade one thing, the first thing you should do is get the numbers for what you're trying to do right now. Like, get those numbers before you make the purchase. And then after you make the purchase, keep those exact same numbers and say, did this improve anything? Did it change anything? And something that might be like aesthetic or a comfort thing, that might be immeasurable, but at least you attempted to measure. And I think the habit of testing is crucial for anybody who's sports, business, anything, right? Like, if you want to change your arm swing, right? What is your hitting percentage now? All right, we tweak your arm swing for 2-3 weeks. Now, next month, what's your hitting percentage? Did what we do actually work? Because if you're a coach, you got to figure out, should I do that with the next athlete? And if you're just like looking visually, they say, Gold Medal Squared, great coaching company. So like the difference between, I think is a 275 and a 300 hitter. Like 275 is kind of bottom of the barrel for MLB. And 300 is Hall of Fame, right? What's the difference? And the difference is one hit every 2 weeks. So if you're trying to measure that with your eyes, right? If you're trying to keep those stats without you're just trying to like watch it and observe it, there's no way that even the most trained eye can be like, you see that? He got 4 more hits in the last 2 months. So that adjustment we made with the speed, like his fast hands, it worked. And
right.
It's tough. So, okay. So we put in some blue turf. You felt like that was a good purchase. And maybe more importantly, it makes you happy. And if it makes you happy and people are commenting on it, and again, they're hanging out, or maybe they take a little bit longer to stretch on the ground afterwards, they feel like they can come a little bit earlier because they have a place to like hang out or sit down comfortably. That's going to pay off, I think.
Yeah. We
should have talked about this at the beginning, but why did you turn volleyball into a business? Was this all your idea? Were you put as a manager and then became an owner? What was the story of creating iBeach, an outdoor indoor facility?
Yeah, good question. So, and I ask myself that question like every couple months. So it's like the common thing we hear in business, like, what's your why, right? And I always want to stay grounded and remember why I did this, because sometimes you forget. And sports has just been my life. I played 3 to 4 sports throughout all of high school. And I went to Purdue, played on the club volleyball team there, pretty elite level players. We had a great team. It was an awesome 4-year experience. And then after college, I got into the beach world and kind of fell in love with it. And I grew up in Northwest Indiana. So we were around Chicago, Lake Michigan. So I had a little bit of taste of beach volleyball, but very minimal. So then I started getting serious and playing in, the the AVP Next tournaments in Ohio with friends. And you just created this community, this network of people that you wanted to be around that had similar interests. And we played for about, 10 to 15 years. And some of the facilities just weren't great, right? So we wanted more. We wanted better. We wanted better sand. We wanted better entertainment. And we would all talk about, okay, who's going to be the first person to build beach volleyball that cares, right? That has a passion for the game and the sport. And I have an entrepreneur spirit. I've created smoothie programs for childcare centers and schools and different kind of nutrition programs. So it's just a part of who I am. And people that know me are always like, I knew you were going to go off and do something on your own someday. It's just kind of in your blood. So I think what I talked about it, and I would say the number one thing I did before I made a business plan for beach volleyball business was I met over 10 people in the beach volleyball world. So Ohio, Chicago, all of the surrounding states, and just said, what worked for you? What didn't work for you? And I didn't know if it was going to work. People thought I was crazy. We tried to do some pre-surveys of what they say to do. Will you come play in a beach volleyball league? We didn't really get very much traction, but I think it was a good exercise for that. And of course, we ran a lot of marketing numbers. Do we have the number of people in our city, right? Is this a good location? That was a tough decision maker for us. And so I think we just went with it. And I have 5 kids, a blended family. And so we were immersed into the school systems and the sports systems in our community. That was helpful, really helpful, because we had people that came and joined us in year 1 that probably would have never done that if they didn't have a connection to it. And now they've literally played for 5 years straight. They love it. Every Sunday night, they look forward to coming to play beach volleyball with the neighbors. So yeah, I think just sports is my background, making an impact on youth and adults alike. Nutrition and being active and social is just kind of what makes me and who I am. And so getting to live my everyday doing that is fun, but you learn a lot more about the business side. So through the process.
What was the pay down like? So, did you buy land? Did you buy commercial property? Did you lease land? That's a scary experience for people, because some people, for me, the next park that we want to control my own land. I hate the idea of leasing just because I don't want to be under anybody else's rules, even though at some point you still have to follow somebody's rules, like the city or the zoning or whatever. But what was that like for you going into, all right, I'm doing this. Now, how do you get the land? How do you get the facility?
Gosh, those were questions that we just went back and forth on. And I had to, find some investors. So speaking high level numbers, we needed about $150,000 for startup for 6 outdoor courts. Now that was leasing land. We didn't buy it. So we had to find somebody that wanted to let us put beach volleyball courts in their backyard. It was a long process. It probably took a year or more just to figure out where we were going to go, who was our investor. And somehow it just worked, and we landed on it, and we leased this for 5 years. And then now we just purchased 3 acres of our own, and then we're going to own and build all of it with some additional investors. So it was a tough decision, not owning it. I think I was a little naive. I didn't really know, right? Like what I didn't know. And so I was thinking, oh, not a big deal. You know, some people are like, well, it lowers your risk, right? If you lease and you don't own. And then other people say, well, you have an asset, right? If your business goes bad and then you can sell it. So I think I was just eager. I was just saying, well, let's just do it. And it's not, I just did it. I very over prepared. You know, I put a lot of work and time into it in preparation, and built resources to get it started. But we just went with the whole lease because it was a lot less startup money.
Okay. Yeah. I think that's for anybody. If you want to live in a home, what's the easiest, fastest way for most people that they're going to know? They're going to rent, you know, and then you start realizing, there's control. There's a lot of financial advantage, and some leverage that you can create once you actually purchase land. So I do have a question about your investors and then your hunt for land. So the first thing is, did you find the facility first, the place where you wanted first, and then the investors? Did you find investors who were like promising first, or was it all just kind of mishmash?
It was all it was all just mixed up, and there was no order. There was, because, you know, I asked myself those same questions. Well, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Like, what do you do first? And I would say there's not really one or the other that makes sense. You know, even through the process, we've told our story to so many people, you know, looking for investors, because we've been looking at building a building for 5 years, like probably 6 years, because we wanted to start the business to have indoor. That's why I wanted to do it, so we could be around. But then I said, okay, all right, I'll just do outdoor, make sure it works, make sure we build a successful business, and then do indoor later. And we have attempted several times over the last 5 years, and everyone's like, the theme of the indie area is like, oh, I'll believe it when I see it, right? I'll believe it when I see it indoor, because it is a hard process. The financial reward isn't like, you know, giant investment, right? That like you're going to get a big return. It can be successful financially. It just takes a lot of work, and you have to be really passionate about what you're doing to be okay with the work that goes into it.
Yeah. I think people need to realize that that's standard, like scalable. The people that you see that are making millions and billions quickly, those are things that can scale infinitely, which means that you can be in the pockets of 1 million people. If you're looking at a community where, you know, your local town is less than 1 million, or maybe like 500,000 people, this currently isn't scalable unless you get to the point where you write absolutely everything down that you did, like perfectly, all accumulated in a binder with, you know, all the tabs and everything. And then you say, okay, we did this here. Here is our city size. Here is how far we were from a highway. Here's how far we were from the schools. Let's go and find that exact match in city number 2 through 50 through 60. Then it becomes scalable to the point where you become a, you know, very quick multimillionaire. But just to get started, that's not the point where you're just going to just make bazillions on your company. There's a lot of grind work. And if you don't know the right people to hire, and you don't have the financial backing to hire geniuses right away, it's going to take work, period. You know, like I just went to a jiu-jitsu session, and I didn't know this, but I wanted to sign up because he was a great coach. He presented for everybody, and I was like, hey, do you have a private available for tomorrow? And he's like, yeah. He's like, half hour, an hour? I said, an hour. He goes, okay, great. And we did the session. Fantastic teacher, awesome, learned a lot, way faster than I did in any of the group classes, which was the whole goal. And then I went to the desk, and I was like, hey, I just got to pay for Sam's private. And she's like, okay, it was an hour, $300. I was like, bah, huh? You know, but like, this guy is a black belt, which means that he's got minimum 10 years, most likely 15, 16 years of training and teaching under his belt, right? So he is the fastest route to improving. So if I got a chunk of change, yeah, I'm going to do privates with him all day, every day. But we all have to find that balance of how fast can I move? How fast do I want to move? And like, at what point do I run out of money when it comes to speed? Because building a community takes time. Once you have a community built, then it feeds itself so long as you keep treating people right, and you go that route. But getting to the point where all of your business systems, you can spend a big wad of money hiring great people who have done it before. That then is going to cost you a lot of time hunting them down. And you're going to have to say, like, yeah, I can beat your old job with this salary, which in my experience is always half investment, half guess, right? You're looking at this person and you go, yeah, I don't know if we can afford you unless you succeed, right? And that's how I've hired everybody that I've hired. It hasn't been a situation where I know that they're going to do it, right? It's, here's what I need you to achieve. And if you don't within 3 months, 6 months, I can't keep you because I'll probably be out of money.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. And then that's where you get to people who are more experienced than me, that they go to their investors and they're like, hey, I have an all-star player. I need to hire him. Can I get a little more financial runway? So like I need a couple thousand extra a month just to be able to afford him, but he's going to knock it off within the next year. All right. Then you get the all-star. Or you go the other route and you grind by yourself, right? And you say like, all right, I'll figure it all out on my own.
Right.
One of the things that we did with some of my friends from our volleyball camps, we do a lot of personal development seminars and business seminars, but we have a big crew of them that I put into a WhatsApp group. And it's people who I know are uber successful and hustlers and entrepreneurs. And so I said, and it's people who I love hanging out with. Like, because I got to meet them all in person, it's like, we're going to have great conversations. So now we've got this little 20-person group where we all like hanging out together. We all like talking to each other. And anytime we do something that's like really important for our business that somebody might not know, like, hey, did this today. Just a reminder, anybody who hasn't done this for their business or for their taxes, don't forget X. And people are just being a part of this group. People are making or saving thousands based on a chat group.
That's awesome.
It's dope, right? But you got to figure out how to get those people having that conversation on a regular basis. And that took me 6.5 years to decide, like, you know what, maybe I should start some type of Rolodex. And my Rolodex is a WhatsApp group. Right.
I thought about you the other day because you talked about, like, I don't know, as you go through this new journey in your life, like friend group, right? Like making new friends and figuring out who that is. And on the radio, this guy, he's a popular like radio announcer or whatever in our area. And he actually lives like in the neighborhood down the road from me, but he had live interviews to meet new friends. So he's married and has 2 young kids, and he needed to like meet new people. So they would try to fight for like why they should be his new friend. Like, have a boat and you love to boat or whatever. And so it was funny. I'm like, you could do that, Mark. You could have people call in and like why I should be Mark's new friend.
Please be my friend.
Yeah.
Our volleyball camps do that on their own. Like we get to hang out with each other so much, and I see the way everyone acts on court. I see the way everyone behaves at dinner, and I get the personal like one-on-one time with everybody. So it's not that I like hate anybody else. That would be completely inaccurate. It's just some people you just form this instant bond with, where even if you weren't in the same industry, you're interested in the same passions, you could sit there and just like hang out and watch a game together. Or if they invited you to the beach or a bar, you'd be like, yeah, of course.
Sure.
And now they're also super geniuses who have this crazy experience and wealth and entrepreneurialism. So you're like, we have the choice of steering this conversation towards volleyball and bump set spike, or I can kind of steer the conversation instead of asking who you're playing with this year, being like, hey, what new investments have you made in your business this year? Mm-hmm. And then it's a completely different conversation. And I keep getting stuck because of the transition that I'm making from playing pro into becoming solely a business athlete. I keep getting stuck in my old social group who are like, can you believe who partnered up this year? I'm just like getting bored. Like, I don't care who's flying with who to Paris for whatever tournament. More I'm like, well, how many houses have you bought in the last 5 years? Like what new thing are you chasing? How did you hire your last A player? Those are conversations, and it takes conscious effort steering those conversations, and then kind of not stepping out and losing friends, but we know from life that you're always going to have a certain friend group for a certain amount of time or a certain phase of your life, and then you move on.
Right. And I think that just evolves. It naturally happens. It's not that you purposefully ditch them. It's just, your kids don't play on the same sports team anymore. Oh, I probably won't talk to you anymore. Not because I don't like you, but just because, unless we deeply connected, right? And we're aligned in some shape or form through life. So makes sense.
Have you, I don't know if women go through this as much as men, because it always surprises my wife, but I had somebody text me who we were best friends for 2 years in college, went to a different college, stayed in touch, but he just sent me a text for the first time in, I think, 6 years. And it was just a picture of his kids throwing a ping pong ball into a cup. And he was like training them early. And that was it. No, hey man, what's up? Long time. Picture of his kids. I didn't know he had kids, And then like a week later, I sent him a picture of us playing the same game at a Super Bowl party. And that was it. So we still have this like feeling like we're connected, even though we're totally disconnected.
Yeah. That's how you know they're like true good friends, that you've connected with them on a level that, will always be there. So, yeah.
And then there are some friends that will never get to that level again, and they stayed who they were for a long time. Okay, so let's get back to a little bit of the business side. How did you find, what was the exact method of search for finding your location?
It was somewhat easy for me because it was in my community. And I wanted to build it in my community. But I did have reservations. I did wonder, is this the best place? Should we be in Indianapolis? Because the population is, exponentially bigger, right? It's just.
What's the population of your town area? Like within 30 minutes, do you know how many people live near you?
That's a really bad question for me because I'm going to say a number and then we're going to go look at it and be like, you are way off, Katie. In Westfield, so Westfield is where we are. If I had to guess, I would maybe say 80,000.
Wow.
Is that big?
No.
Small.
To me, that seems small.
Maybe it's 100. Maybe it's a little bit more than that. I mean, we were a small farm community, but they built. It's called Grand Park, and they're trying to be the biggest sports complex in America. Well, and so the development in our community has been exponential, and the growth and the younger people moving here and the businesses moving in here, and we're surrounded by a lot of suburban cities next to us. And so it's not just our city, but it's 5 cities around us that kind of make up like a bigger city. Right. So, I could be way off maybe,
sure.
But I feel like
was that one of your thought processes of, cause to me, when I'm looking at this facility, I go, I have to be within a 30-minute drive of the downtown, and definitely within an hour, and that's pushing it, of an airport, because I also want people coming in for the camp experience. So I was looking at what population and what area do we need to sustain just based on the other facilities that I know, how close they are to massive populations. And I haven't seen one that I think is super successful that is more than 40 or 45 minutes away. Because I know Hayden's got Hayden Beach, and he's growing. But when I went to visit, he was so far outside of Nashville because everyone's like, oh, Hayden moved to Nashville. You know, now he's got Hayden Beach. And then you went there and you were going through these rolling country estates and you're like, there is nothing out here. Why would somebody come? And that to me said, maybe this is why he's kind of growing slowly and he's picking it up. Like now you can see consistent training. I think he's got a bubble over it now. So there's definitely some feeding, but I feel like it took a little bit of time. Whereas if he were 20 minutes closer, could have been successful faster, but also could have been more expensive.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing is the expense. So 465 is our major interstate system that circles around Indianapolis. And if you build anywhere inside the circle, like you're going to pay millions for like land, you know, and then even more for a building. And then once you go outside of that, of course, the price gets lower and lower. And so it is like, what kind of risk do you want to take? Can you pay $1 million for land in the beginning? I don't know. You know, I think, does the business model support that? That's what becomes tough when you make those decisions. And I did look in other cities by us. Mm-hmm. I think I just was really passionate about building something in my community for my kids.
Okay, so that was your main go ahead was I need something for the people around me where they want to hang out and where they want to play and learn the sport.
I think so, but also just doing it for my community, you know, doing it for the kids in the area and doing it for the adults. And it is nice to be in your community. You know, I drive 5 minutes to work. That's really nice.
That's great. Oh, that's so nice.
But my indoor place is, you know, 30 minutes. So, but we are 30 minutes from the airport. We are 30 minutes from downtown. And people travel probably 30 to 45 minutes to come play with us. So I think people tend to go to, you know, where everyone else goes for that sport. There might, depending on the demand, there might be a couple places. For juniors, it's completely different. Juniors will travel 2 hours to go train and play with you. It's crazy.
If there's nothing else around.
Even if there's stuff around, they'll go to the best. Or indoor clubs will travel up to 2 hours to go play 3 times a week. So that's like a 4-hour drive for them. And then a 2-hour practice.
I've heard
at
stories
12 years old.
Like parents from Arizona traveling like 4 and 5 hours to Southern California to get a practice. And I'm just like, oh man, such dedication for parents. Don't want to get too deep into the parent and juniors talk, but there's a little bit of craziness.
That could be a whole topic on its own. Yeah.
Okay. So you you chose your community and there wasn't a question of where do we plant this? It's, I want it to be near me. And you had a decent sized population. Like you weren't in the middle of just straight up country town. It was, you had a certain population. And did you feel like there was a community already growing and interest already getting there? Or was it, if you build it, they will come type deal?
Well, it was kind of, if you build it, they will come. Literally, there was no beach volleyball. There's probably 2 other competitors, you know, within 20 minutes from us, but there was nobody in our area that had the interest. It was just, if you build it.
You don't consider within 20 minutes in your area?
What's that?
If you've got 2 competitors who are within 20 minutes, you don't consider that within your area?
Well, I guess kind of do. Yeah. They're on different sides of town. So, you know, one's on the north side of Indianapolis. So they're going to get the south side people. One's on the east side and then we're on the north side. So we'll get some more north side people. And then, yeah, I mean, I would say it probably, our area, you know, if you look at Indianapolis and the surrounding cities, probably couldn't handle more than 4 outdoor beach volleyball. Now, when you do the indoor side of things, because the demand has never been there, we've never had it. I can't imagine more than like 2 at most surviving. I just don't think we're going to have the demand year round. People do other things, right? In Indiana, like, oh, I'm going to go skiing, you know, every weekend, or I'm going to go play indoor hardcourt or basketball or whatever. So we don't have the diehards that are like, oh, I'm going to play 365 days, you know, or, you know, every week for a whole year. Whereas like in Cincy, they have that, they built that, you know, they have thousands of people that will play all the time. Mm-hmm. We're not there yet. We're hoping to build it.
What are you actively doing to get there? So how do you actively increase your audience? Or are you hoping that people just give good word of mouth?
I think that's $1 million question. You know, what helps businesses grow? And we've been growing every year. And so I think that's a positive thing. I think creative ways on social media has set, like, you know, and then knowing the different platforms. So we know that Instagram is a bigger platform for, you know, the high schoolers and the middle schoolers. So how do we cater our message to them on that? I think doing big events when we have people here has helped us grow our numbers on social media. And so it's making people aware that we're here. How do people know about us? I don't have the perfect answer to that. I'm just searching, right? How can we get 1,000 more people that never heard about us, that love sports, that would come if they knew? I don't know. You know, we do all the things, like, you know, we'll put a message on the radio. We do like all the social media. We do email marketing. We try to get businesses to come to us. For our junior program, you know, we've talked to Better at Beach about you guys, and, you know, could that be a great marketing factor to say, look what we're doing to grow the game and to give you more resources to advance your game. And I think for juniors, another big thing is the NCAA increase. You know, there's colleges that are popping up everywhere. I just got an email from a college saying, hey, if you have seniors that aren't committed yet, we need people for our program. Like, that was cool. So if I had seniors that, like, didn't have a place to go play in college, but they wanted to, they have that available to them in beach volleyball. So
I remember when they did that with men's lacrosse, and they were just walking to football teams and being like, you want to play lacrosse in college? We got a full scholarship. And people, I've never played lacrosse in my life. He goes, yeah, but you're fast. We'll teach you the stick stuff. And it's like, and there's like giving out scholarships to sports that people never had. And I think beach volleyball is growing in that same way. Like, let's take an athletic outside who at least she's gotten some serve receive reps, and we can throw her in there, you know, onto the beach. That's kind of wild.
So I mean, I'm looking for answers from you too, you know, like how did you grow your brand? How do you get people to your camps? You know, how do you get people to register and sign up? And I think there's so many different pieces to the formula, you know, like, do you provide good customer service? People want to come where they feel welcome and they're learning and they build a community, you know? So how do we do that? How do we build a community where people love it every time they walk in the door, right? Every time they walk onto the beach, like, oh, I love going to iBeach. I want to come there next week. You know, I think the returning players that we have for adults and juniors are pretty high. And so I think that's something I feel like we do pretty well. Like, we want to make sure everyone has a great experience, not just a good experience. Like, and we're not perfect, and we ask for feedback all the time. You know, how can we improve our leagues and how we structure it? People always tell us about what kind of music we play. They want a particular type of music. So, you know, we try to cater to that. So
there you go. Yeah. And even if you can't at that moment, don't say no. Say, oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah. Yep. We're going to get better.
You can stop there. Like, you can stop there with that conversation. They'll be like, yeah, it is a great idea. And, you know, they feel like they've been heard. But I think when you're growing a business, there's so many frustrations, and then people throw their ideas or their recommendations at you. And it's so big at that moment because that's one of your 20 customers. And you're just like, I'm working so hard and you don't know what I'm doing every day. And I had this problem in sports too, where parents would comment on the energy of your team or why you did this. It's like, shut up. You're not in the practice gym. Like, you're not with us grinding every day. But when it comes to a business coming in and somebody saying that, instead of firing back or getting super mad, I had to learn to calm myself and be like, yeah, that might be something we can look at some point. And that's it, just table it. They're not trying to jump on you. They're actually trying to help, and they're trying to get something that they want. And then one of the things that I think we did and are doing really well is we continue to talk to people as if they're people and definitely not customers. So it's like, hey, I'm trying to build a business, and I'm very honest. I say, this is what we're trying to do. This is what we think is going to happen. And we'd love to hear why you guys think it sucks, why you guys think it could be great. And then we always have the reviews. Like when I'm sitting at camps, I'll not trap my campers, but if we're having a good conversational flow, I go, hey, what's the worst part of this camp been? Like, what has been the most disappointing or thing that you thought there would be that there isn't? And so when I ask specific questions, then you get specific answers instead of, are you having a good time? Everybody's going to say, yeah. Okay.
Right.
Great. But when I tell them, hey, what's your favorite part? Like, what's one part that was here that you didn't think would be here, but you're so happy is? And then I also do that on the back end. So I get like, all right, what's something that we should definitely repeat for this person? And what's something that we should definitely not repeat for this person? And then if you hear the same things over and over again, you get great answers. And that's what led us to start doing 3-day weekend camps. Was everybody, when I had those conversations, they said, it's just tough to give up 7 days of work and 7 days of family, like to get out to a 7-day camp. That's why it took me 2 years to get to the camp. And I go, well, what would be the perfect length of camp for you that you would want to do? And then I gave them like a couple scenarios. Like, what if we did a 2-day camp, a 3-day camp, a 4-day camp? And got some answers there. Then we threw in a Facebook poll, and we got a lot of answers from that. And so that led us to creating a whole new service.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I know for me, I only got to come to 1 day of your camp in Ohio, but there are certain things that you take away, right? Especially as a business owner, you have that mindset.
Yeah.
And like being vulnerable in big groups is hard for people. Like I work in the public health field, and I did, like laughter yoga and all of these wellness things where people had to get out of their comfort zone. So for example, your warm-ups, sometimes people are like, oh my gosh, I don't know anybody, right? You're like walking around giving high fives. Like for me, I don't mind being vulnerable, but I felt a little bit of that, like vulnerability. But then afterwards, I'm like, it's cool. Like, most people like that. And then one thing that I love the get better, like the clap twice and get better. And I'm like, I'm going to do that with our juniors. I mean, I probably won't steal your get better. Maybe it's 2 other words, but the energy is cool. Like you create energy in those big environments where everyone's collaborating together. And then all of a sudden you feel the energy and you're like, okay, this is doing what we wanted it to do, right? We want people to feel connected and feel excited about the next thing. Like positive affirmation was like big for me. And then the third thing I'll just share with you, because I think it's cool for you to hear it, is, so I do have to say, for me, like I am so busy in my job right now. And so I kind of just wanted to be active. And I love self-growth and I love doing those things, but I wasn't there. And so when I had to sit down and like get the journal out, a part of me is like, I just want to go on the court and play a little bit. Like I just want to move and be active. But then I was like, okay, like my big personal motto is like, be where your feet are. A lot of people, it's a popular quote, but it's like, be in the moment. And one thing that I loved that you talked about was like you might know better than I do. I think it was like are you the plus or the minus in the relationship? Yeah. And I have thought about that on a weekly basis since I left, like probably on a daily basis. Like in my friendships with Radka, who I traveled with, like she's always the plus because she's always bringing food and being positive and telling me all the great things. And I'm like, am I doing anything back for her?
Right.
So I won't go down too much down a rabbit hole, but I think it was cool, like what I took away from it from a business owner standpoint. And then I could, share a lot more, but those are the top things that I came out of thinking, which is nothing related to volleyball, interestingly.
That's the feedback we get a lot from those camps, and a lot of it is coming from the conversations that I want to have and what I believe sport can do for people and should do for people. Like it, you heard it when we were there, but if you can bounce a ball effectively off of your body, how are you making the world a better place? The only way is if you get so good at it that people start listening to you, and then you tell them good things that will grow a community, that will help them out. Or you can be not as effective, but you can make somebody's day. You can support them. Like when crap is happening in their life, at least you can be that positive aspect that just chucks out compliments nonstop. And they found that escape from whatever's happening that's terrible in their life. And now they can feel that uplifting positivity from their sport or from their lift or from yoga or anything like that. Mm-hmm. Well, let's dive a little bit deeper into your investors. So it didn't sound like you had let's call it A++ business plan where you said, this is how many people live in this area. These are the minutes. This is exactly why it's work. And that's an assumption, so I could be wrong. But how did you then convince somebody to give you, what was it, $150,000 to lay down courts and start whatever lease it was?
Right. So there's 3 of us. And it was just people that I knew. It was like it was conversation starters. And I kept thinking, okay, well, my husband and I can put some money down. Like, let's find, 1 or 2 other people to go in on it with us. And it was literally just conversation starters where I would talk to people that I know in the volleyball world. And I said, hey, this is what we're doing. And then somehow or another, they were intrigued. And then I would say, oh, well, are you interested in investing? They're like, well, yeah, maybe. It's amazing how many people say that.
A lot of maybes out there. Yeah.
When you ask them. And we've had a couple different investors throughout the time. And then we have some new investors now. And it's all connections and relationships. If I walk out blindly to someone that I know has a lot of money, we've never gained traction on that. Not to say that you can't, but it was just relationships that I had developed over the years where people are like, oh, well, sounds like you have a wonderful idea. You're really passionate about it. I'm in, let's do it. If they had some extra money to risk to put into something that is pretty risky, knowing, I don't know if it's going to be successful or not. So it was really just conversation starters with people. And then it led into, oh, well, would you want to be an investor? And, some people were like, yeah, I do. And then a really big piece of that, which it's almost like you don't really know. You have to take a little bit of a risk, but it's important to make sure you're aligned with the same values, but you don't always know that, right? So you might think that you are, but it's like a family, right? You're spending a lot of time, you're putting a lot of money, especially new startups when you've never done it before. So this was kind of a new experience for us. So it was a learning curve. If I did it again, I ask a lot more questions. And I ask, what's their purpose? How have their business relationships been in the past? Because I've had people share stories with me that I'm like, I will never go into business with you. So it's getting to know them on a personal level, but then not having, because sometimes I'm like, well, they don't do things the way that I do it and we're not aligned. But then I think, okay, well, what are their strengths? Maybe they're more business savvy and they're not as beach volleyball savvy, or they're not as like customer service savvy, which I think is a must. I think that's a non-negotiable, but they know the numbers. They're going to run the numbers and they're going to say, hey, this is what we have to do. And I know they want that to be successful. Then they might be a good partnership for me, So
let's role play for like 2-3 minutes here. Let's say we're getting along. You and me are in a really cool relationship. And I'm just like, man, I would, if you think that you guys need help, I would love to be a part of this next thing. What then do you offer? Are you saying, do you want a percentage? Do you automatically default to, all right, we just need a loan that I'll pay back in X amount of time? Because I know a lot of people are afraid and get nervous around partnerships and giving up equity in their business, right? They don't want to like give up that control. They're worried about maybe some of the even legal issues that when you're sharing partnership, it becomes much more complicated when there are multiple owners. And then you have to lay out, then you got to get somebody real smart and expensive, like a lawyer, who's going to say, I know all of the ways that this can and has gone wrong. So here are all of the questions that we have to go through before we sign the contract, and we have to decide on it. So what's the easiest partner that you're looking for, and what do you offer them? Do you give them a menu? Do you give them 3 choices?
So it kind of just depends on where we've been and what I'm asking you for. So right now, we're not necessarily looking for money, right? So we have all the money that we need, which typically when you put money in, you have ownership of the company.
Yeah,
now,
typically.
There's always, not always, sweat equity, right? So you can have sweat equity and you can be the person that has the vision and the dream and like, hey, I'm going to own, X percentage of the company because this is my value, right? That's equal to
Let me pause you right there. Don't lose track. For anyone who doesn't know, is new to this, like, what is sweat equity? If you've never heard those words, sweat equity means that you are putting in your sweat, like your time, your energy, into growing this business in order to take equity, which is partial ownership. So you're saying, hey, I don't have the money, but I got the grind, I got the know-how, I got the hustle. So let me get my hands dirty. And if I get my hands dirty long enough and we agree on it, then you'll make me a part owner, which can be, if I've got a bunch of money, but I don't really want to do all the customer service, I don't want to build email systems, but I know somebody who knows how to do all that, then all right, he doesn't have money or he doesn't want to put in money, but he's just out of his last job, or he's like, you know what, I got 5 hours at the end of every night. I'll build this for you if I can be part owner. So sweat equity means that you're putting in effort and time and skills to be a part owner. And that's what we're talking about when we talk about sweat equity. Sorry, go ahead, Katie.
Yeah. So like I said, it's just dependent. So we've been different journeys throughout the last 5 years. But currently, if we were looking for someone, it would be more on the operations side. Who can help us build our juniors and who can help us run our business? Like, maybe it's social media. So, that's more of like hiring a position. But I have learned that sometimes when you have more skin in the game and you are like, let's say you're the CEO of the company or but you don't have any equity in it, right? Any equity. I think it's just different in a small business. I think when you have ownership in the business, it changes the way that you work on the business. So I think that's, for me, if I would be seeking somebody out, it would be somebody that's like has the drive and the passion to be like, I'm gonna let's grow something big together. Let's grow something cool. I'm gonna change it. I have all these ideas. This is what I've done. This is what I feel like works. Let's go. Let's dive in. Let's do this. So I think, for me, getting tired of a small business where I probably haven't run it as efficiently as I could because I'm learning,
Nobody has.
it would help to, not do all the things and help work on the business, not in the business. Because you read books like that, and that's ultimately kind of defines me. It defines me. I do the admin, I do the calls, I do the coaching, I do the hiring, I do the finances, I do the book, I do the, like, we have roles. Like I have, another part owner, and we do a lot of things together, but I know that's not effective, right? Like the most effective to keep building and growing this really amazing business that I have a lot of visions for. Like I'm a visionary and I need like an operator. Like I need so I think that's what I dream about for our business. And is it another owner? I don't know. Is it someone we just hire as like our CEO that kind of helps run the whole business? Maybe,
COO,
like
CEO,
a salary type of job.
Right.
But maybe has some skin in the game. Now, if I was looking for an investor for money, that's a little different, like what kind of questions I would ask you type of thing. Yeah. I got steered a little bit. I don't know.
No, okay. I like that. Yeah, that's, we've had, so Brandon, our, now he's our CEO. So all I do is work on the things that I think in the background are going to be big banger, type, what do you call them? Initiatives. And he is now full on operations, which means that he's in charge of making sure that people send emails, and he's in charge of making sure that like everybody is online and in direction and doing that. And one of the things that we had to go through, and this took years, was we can't have people that we're telling what to do. If I'm not a little bit lost, when you're talking about your specialty, then I probably haven't hired the right person, or you're not progressing fast enough. And we've hired a couple of people now who have started out where we were the experts, and they've gotten so good to the point where now it's like, oh, what did you do? And that works. Okay,
right.
Great.
Right.
And those are the conversations we want to have every day, where it's giving them liberty. So anytime we started finding ourselves micromanaging or talking like during team meetings, if we as the bosses, owners, are talking more than anyone in that room, it's a bad situation, right? It's the same thing that we have with sports and with coaching. If you're a good coach and you're in your practice field, your practice court, and you are getting more athletic repetitions than any of the athletes on your court, like a volleyball coach who's just downballing every single ball, or he's the one who's setting because the athletes don't have the setting control, so then the hits look ugly. That's garbage. That's absolute garbage. You have to be the one who's watching and facilitating so that everybody else gets the reps. And if you're in business, they have to be the ones talking. And if you sit there in the meeting and they don't have anything to say, or they don't say why they didn't reach the goal, what goal, or what the reason was for them not reaching it, or hey, we kicked butt this week, here's how, you're not doing the job yet of owner, of CEO, right?
Agree. Mm-hmm. That's very telling and true. And yeah.
And great coaches know it. And that's why, we talk to athletes, and this is one of those direct translations. This is one of those things where it's like, you're setting the direction. Everybody else has to get the reps and has to explore beyond themselves. So you can give them things to try. You can spitball them. You could have your coach hours where you bring them into your office and you're like, so what's going on? But you cannot be the one doing the reps for them. Imagine you took every 3-point shot for Steph Curry in his life. Kid's never going to be Steph Curry.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. No. I've heard that often, in coaching, is that you should be able to go in and run a practice and not touch a ball. And now there's times, right, that, you could be a little bit more effective, a certain drill, but letting your players demo, letting them do the down balls. Like, we know as coaching, it makes us better, right? Because we break down the fundamentals, and we do. And so if you make the players learn that, I coach JV for high school, and I try not to do the down balls, because they're going to get better if they do the down balls. And
100%,
so I really do try to follow that. And I think that it's probably something I could use more in my business side too.
Yeah. That's what the show is all about. Taking our sport lessons and figuring out, like, all right, how do we transition this?
Right.
Right. So how many people do you have on your team right now? Like your inner team, your inner circle?
Like 4 each for our business. Yeah. So Brittany and I, there's really 2 of us that kind of do most things, but we've hired little pockets of people that are sometimes contract and not permanent, because that's the nature of the business. We're very seasonal. Mm-hmm. So it's not like we have year-round people that are with us, for 12 months at a time. So one thing that was extremely valuable for us was a bookkeeper. We have an accountant, of course, but that was a big help that we had. And then we also kind of gave her some other roles as far as doing some flyers for us and some marketing, our email marketing. So kind of 2.5 with her, but then you add our coaches. And so we hire about 10 coaches over the spring and summer. Mm-hmm. And anywhere between 10 and 15 coaches. And so we'll train them. And then we have for our adult leagues, we have someone that we didn't get here until year 3. We were always there running the adult leagues. So we knew that wasn't realistic, right? Like we have families, we can't run every part of the business. So we slowly started hiring people to be openers and closers at our adult leagues from like 6 to 11 p.m. And so the last 2 years, for every night of the week, we would hire, and it was usually about 2 to 3 staff. And sometimes they would change throughout like a 6-month, like 3 different sessions. So probably if you bring all that together, maybe like 3 or 4 part-time staff.
Okay.
And then like 2.5 full-time staff.
Are you at the level yet where you can hand them a piece of paper or an Excel sheet or a link and they know exactly what they have to do without even needing to talk to you? It's just as far as the tasking. For
those positions, I would say yes. We just need more staff for more positions to take away, some of my responsibilities, as we go through. So, but that's a good question, because would I want our staff to be more efficient for adult leagues? Yes. Like they could learn how to do scheduling while they're sitting there doing nothing, right? Yep. And make their time more valuable. And we've attempted that, but we've never, I don't think, implemented it fully. We're like, okay, if you work Monday and Wednesday, you do Monday and Wednesday scheduling in playoff nights and, all the tasks that come with adult leagues. Another big part of our business is tournaments, and we run those too. And I'd love to outsource them. I just can't find people that want to, that want to run them. So we do the junior tournaments, but we have hired a lot of like high school and college kids that love to be a part of it and help us run them. And they're helpful. Could they do it on their own? There's a couple that have been regulars with us that we would feel comfortable to, like, hey, I'm going to give you all the instructions, right? Like I'm going to make sure from start to finish. And then we would feel comfortable that they could run it if we were both gone, like a junior tournament.
Yeah. I like getting to that point quickly. Kind of like, I guess, I assume how parenting is going to be. It's like, you let your kid experiment, but you protect him, but you've got that little like safety net, So yeah, I'll let you climb up on the couch. Yeah, I'll let you get up onto the armrest. I'm going to make sure my hands are still here for the first few times, make sure you don't go overboard. And then once I know that you've got it, all right, I don't need to see you climbing on every armrest anymore. And so I think if you're going to hire somebody new, you say, here's what you have to do. Yeah, you have yours already built because you've run a league, so you know how to fix it up and mop it quickly. But you go, here's what you got. You got to put this on. You call me when you get stuck, and then you don't do it for them. You start asking those tough questions of like, so what are you going to do? Yeah. And that's the toughest part. That was definitely the toughest part for me, of not fixing somebody's problem, but saying, I believe in you. And a couple of my employees got sick of like me saying that, like, I believe in you, and just letting them go. Like they're going to have to screw up. Yeah, it's not going to be perfect, and nothing in their life is going to be perfect, but they have to also learn that little bit of failure and that little bit of nervousness when people are looking at them, and they've got their spreadsheet for the tournaments of who's in playoffs and who's in what. They have to feel that little bit of anxiety so that they hate that feeling. And they want to come back the next week and be like, now it's organized.
Right.
Right. And they might come up with better solutions than you ever had. But if you keep giving them your solutions, you'll never progress as a company, because you definitely don't know if your solutions are the best. You just know that they work.
Right. Yeah. And 100%. So it's funny in this business, we joke that, like, so our motto at iBeach, like a fun motto that we say a lot, that our players say a lot, is it's always 70 and sunny at iBeach. So how that came about is that it rains a lot in Indiana. And I got to a place where I learned this business and I would say, we never cancel. We don't cancel. And so we would joke, it's always 70 and sunny at iBeach. Like on the chat groups, people would say, well, are you canceling leagues today? And this would be like 5 hours before. And we're like, we don't. A, we never cancel 5 hours before. And B, we don't cancel unless it's lightning. But to that point, those are things that are tough because you can have all the protocols in place, all the safety things in place, and then all of a sudden it starts to rain and you look at the radar and you have to learn to be a little bit like Al Roker. You're like, is the lightning coming or not? Can we cancel or not? So when we have staff there, that's not us, they start to freak out. And so that's when we're on call and we're typically like, okay, this is a safety issue. It's a hard call for our high school or college kid to make a decision on, should we cancel this adult league? We're not there. What do we do?
But they're an adult. Yeah, I don't know. Yes, it's your business. Yes, there's legal stuff, but there still has to be, what are you going to do?
Right.
Okay. How are you going to fix it? Then after they say that, then you say, okay, how are you going to make it up? And that's it. They've got their own homework problems. They've all, we can't keep babying employees or contractors or anything. And it's that thing of like, I believe in you. I hired you because I think you're capable of making this decision. And if they screw up, they're going to feel it.
Right.
And they're going to not want to be in that position again. And then if they're the type of person that doesn't want to be in that position completely because they're so nervous and that a failure breaks them down to when they don't want the job anymore, you don't want that person in the first place. Right. Failure kicks their ass so bad that they just won't or can't return. This is not somebody you can build a company on anyway. You don't want to hang out with that person anytime it's like it's a drizzle and they think it's a thunderstorm.
Yeah. They're real tough questions. So let me tell you, like, we got people. So yeah. And I think, so here's another example though. This is the tough part. So we let our league managers run the league night, right? So subs are a really big part of your business. Right? So people don't show up, teams don't show up, they need a sub. So we have a chat group that we're probably overly engaged with, right? To try to help people find players. At the end of the day, they need to find their players, but we want to provide a good service to them, to help them, make everyone else have a good experience if they play. Well, sometimes our staff will not know that there's subs sitting there, or there won't be a team on the court, like, and they won't announce like, hey, is, rolling with your homie, are they here? Report to court 3 or up. And we've learned that when we're not there, it doesn't always run as smoothly. So that's just something that you have to work on more training, right? Better training to say, you need to make sure that at 6:15, when there's a team scheduled, those teams should be out there. And in the next shift, if someone isn't playing, then you need to problem solve. But, it's part of it. That's tough because we can't always be there. You have to build your business so that anyone that steps in can do that job effectively. And I think that may come down to like the training of running an efficient league.
Training's everything. The more, if you need one employee, you need two. Because somebody has to be watching the last person, has to be training the last person. And if employee 1 is your only one, and there's nobody who's been trained for that role next, you have an inability to grow. You have a complete, even more than a bottleneck. You have a hard stop because then everything needs to drop to recover from that person. So one of the posts that I've been recently thinking about is, you're 100%, right? You are 100% beach volleyball facility runner, organizer, owner, director. Now, whatever you hire is most likely going to be 70% of what you can do and what your passion is. But if you hire two 70% people, now you've got 140% of what you could do. And so the ability to train or to watch or to be there and always have like that watchful eye and not taking over. Just have you ever seen Bar Rescue? I love that show.
No.
Great show. Highly recommend for any entrepreneurs.
Watch it.
The guy's a nut job and all he does is yell. But what he does is kind of very much like that. I don't know. Is he British? That cook, the blonde cook that yells at everybody too. But he's behind the bar and all he's doing is like, hey, they need drinks. Why aren't these glasses clean? And he's talking through it and saying like, you need to rush. You need to do that. But he's never pouring drinks. Not once. You know, he's not making drinks. He's there directing, saying this has to be faster. That has to be wrong. And then after that session, immediately once they close the bar down, then they have their debrief, which is something that comes big time in a great book called Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. Recommend that as well. But the debrief is everything, which means after you do something, after you run an event, after you have a league night, all right, start to finish. Walk me through what happened. Walk me through the best things. Walk me through the worst things and what you felt was slow or a problem that you had. You know, and it's always helpful there if you have your superstar customers where you're like, hey, I know you're never going to leave us. like I know you're my friend / customer. Would you be a part of our debrief so that we can make this awesome? And then you have that and you bring them in and you're like, did you notice anything that went wrong with the league? You know, did you ever not know what court you should be on? Oh, Jacob, you know,
right. Yeah.
So debriefs, they take a lot of extra time, but they're crucial in determining what the direction of your business. So, okay. You said, so one of the questions that we really talk about is who you want to hire. So I'm just going to lead it and start it off, and we can start winding this down a little bit. But I want to know what you think your weaknesses are as a CEO owner.
Like me personally, or what area we need help with in our business, or like what I could have.
Your personal weaknesses.
My personal weaknesses.
Because that should tell us what areas you need to improve.
Yeah. Well, I would definitely say like social media and marketing. I am a multitasker, doer of all things all the time. And I don't tend to proofread a lot of things that I do. I just am like trying to go 100 miles a minute. And I'm like, okay, we got to get a message out quick. You know, let's get it up and push it out. So I would say hiring the right people for things that like aren't my strengths. And I would say like social media and marketing definitely is not my strength.
Okay.
I feel like I pay attention to, I try, you know, the ways that I grow from it because I know it's not my strength. So I pay attention to, okay, what gets the most traction and engagement? And it's not always like what the science says or like the study of like marketing says. So like if you try to keep your branding consistent or, you know, the message consistent, it's typically the most engagement we get is like real life things. So like if we post a video of our players or if we post a picture of what's going on, like people want to see like what's happening at your place, not just like a flyer or a message. That's the most engagement that I see when people are like, oh, I read your message and it reached thousands of people and they shared it. But so back to your question, I would say social media marketing and definitely like budgeting and finance. I'm not great at that. And I have to do it because I don't have anyone else to do it right now. And then, of course, I think you and I talked about like our website is such a hub for people to come to. And so I thought it was really cool how you instantly, because I valued your, you know, your instant like thought of, or like as you scrolled through, well, like if you said rentals are such a big part of what you do, but yet your form is broken, like nobody visits that page, then that's a problem, right? So, and I think, so I answer the phone calls and I answer most of the emails. So when people ask a question, I have a different response in my own head that I do, but I know it needs to be more automated. Like, we want to rent it out. How much do you charge? Well, okay, like copy and paste a link on a form, fill it out, and then it will minimize like 2 hours of my time, maybe. Does that make sense? So
Yep.
we're not automated at all in that regard. Like, I literally answer every single email and put a different response to every email, as opposed to like, oh, I have an inexperienced junior, right? I want to sign up for something. What can I sign up for? Well, oh, here's the link to our beginner juniors. Let us know if you have questions, right? Or like someone could answer that outside of me. They don't need to be me to answer that question. But I spend a lot of time engaging in emails and phone calls with questions.
It was the hardest and easiest thing for me when I get the personal emails to then forward it to our support system. Because you can answer them, but then you just hired 2 people to be able to take this on. It's like, yes, I can answer this. I could do it immediately. But then the whole process gets broken, slowed down for the future. And it's always looking at the next step. Yes, I can solve this now, but does that mean that then I have to solve it forever? Because if this next person doesn't know how to solve it, then I never get off of this. So that first thing, like that forward button for me, even though, yeah, I could answer this in 20, 30 seconds, but then it's going to be thousands of 20, 30-second answers instead of send it along and we've got our templates for answering those. And you can start sloppy. And I think most people don't realize that you can start sloppy. When you answer an email, you open an Excel sheet, you say, this was the question. This is the actual question, because people overwrite and they kind of circle around it. And then this was my answer. And then once a week, go through all of your answers and go, is that like the cleanest, easiest way? And does that answer encompass all of the versions of that question so that it can be templated? And you never just want to send an automated response. We always have a person doing it, right? But it's, all right, this will solve 90 to 95% of those questions. And all they got to do is copy paste, and then they add a couple of little details in the end. But anytime you answer an email, like I know people get all sensitive about the amount of tabs that I have open on my computer right now. But if I'm trying to get off of emails, I need to start building a process or a system that somebody else can use. So I'll just write email responses on the top of a Google Sheet and write down the question, throw it into the next cell, and then within a week, you've now got 20, 30, maybe 50, who knows, all of your email responses that you could be like, hey, I can't answer emails this week. Here's my email response sheet. Make sure you double check it before you actually send, right? So that it makes sense. Done.
And that's definitely something like taking me away from admin work so that I can focus on the bigger part of the business is number one priority right now.
Yeah, your questions and conversations should be next step stuff, not how to within the business, how to sign up, where things are, what the address is, who I should call, how do I get it. If you ever find yourself answering that, you're like, this is bad. This is a bad situation for me because I'm not moving the company. It's sitting still with me as a necessary gear in the machine.
Right.
So if you are still answering those emails and you want to do that for next week, I would say like number one piece of homework, open an Excel sheet, label it email responses, and then you just start sliding those in there. And eventually then you'll have categories, then you'll have, the ways to answer that.
Yes. The problem is we haven't hired someone for that position, so we need to do that.
But you can't hire for it because you have no instructions for that.
Right. Yes, correct. I need to make like a Excel spreadsheet, a document for that.
Yeah. And then there's another way that you can do it is you hire somebody, and this can be through Upwork, this can be through Fiverr, or this can be, I've found a lot of success in hiring from within our community. Instead of going through Indeed and hiring like these strangers from the infinite world of job applicants. I can't stand that. But instead I forwarded the last 50 emails that I responded to during business. I need you to systemize this. I need you to write down what the question was and what my response was. And you don't even have to do that. You don't even have to build that Excel sheet because that's a person of this. And then that becomes their training as well. They're like, oh, that's how she answered it. Huh, I didn't know that about this. Like, I didn't know there was a workaround for signing up for the leagues. And she might have been a customer for, 5 years. So, I think the tough part is just saying like, this is only 3-4 hours of my life. Like, how am I going to hire somebody based on that? But the answer is you just start. And you put out an offer. Hey, it's $15 an hour. It's about 4 hours a week that I spend answering emails. So I got $60 a week up for grabs for somebody who wants to help us with our customer service, and then you start. And then when you have those conversations, you see anything that can be fixing, anything you like, anything you enjoy doing. And then they start creating jobs for themselves. Right. Yeah. Like but get them on the team first and with a fair price, a fair pay, right. But just make sure that somebody else is doing it. If you're the one who's responding to emails and answering phone calls and no one is listening or writing with you or for you, you're stuck. You're still stuck.
Agree.
You know anyone who you like talking to in your customers?
Yeah.
You don't have to name them.
No, yeah, I do. I think about, my husband and I talk about that. Like, he would say, oh, so-and-so would be really good at that, that are always there with us anyways, right? Like, people that love to be there and know our business and understand. So, for sure, we have a really strong network of, VIP players / business brainstorm sessions that give us feedback all the time. They love to give us feedback, and I appreciate it. And they're very helpful too. They're like, hey, let us know what you need. Some of them might be good candidates and other of them they have full-time jobs and they make good money. And so they're probably not going to do $15 an hour work, but
you don't know.
You never know. Right. If
some people love it
and give back,
I mean, I got to work with a guy who was making like 150 in salary easy for another startup. And he's just like, hey, I saw your post on social media, because we're always posting that we're looking for roles, even when we're not really looking for roles, And this guy was like another rock star A player. And he'd just been let go from his other job. And he goes, I got a sweet unemployment package. He goes, so I would just love to chase some passions and help out some people who I believed in that I didn't have the opportunity to in the past. And if you're never opening that, you're never putting that word out there, that there is an opportunity, not as many people are going to come asking for work or asking for jobs.
And it's definitely something on our to-do list. We have somebody that's buying into our business right now that has a similar aligned business. And so I wanted to get on the same page to make sure we're looking for the same resources that we both think we need. Because he might have resources that he doesn't want me to ask about. So, but it's on my list to do in the next couple of days to get to put out, especially, admin, social media marketing, league manager type stuff. So, yeah.
How many times have you put that out on social or to your email list?
Well, we haven't in a long time. So, I mean, I think last year we were looking for bartenders and league managers.
So you're drowning, but people think you're swimming.
Right. They don't. Well,
we don't need to pay attention.
I would say
not
many
drowning.
people know that they probably know that I'm drowning a little bit, but they're like, "How can I help? What can I do?" That's always a tough question, right? Like, how can I help? What can I do? Like, whether it's a friend or people that are players that want to help. Hey, when you're ready to move, let me know. And it's hard to know what they can help with, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, those are the A players that kind of dig into you and they're like, this is what's going wrong. Let me tackle this.
Right.
Get this off of your mind. Put your mind somewhere else. I'll crush this.
Right.
Those are the A players that you hope for. But if you don't have that, then you just say, I need somebody who's going to and Jake's listening right now. He's our producer, right? I had no idea what I wanted to do. I just knew, like, man, I need somebody who's going to make guests show up, who's going to like book guests, make sure that they show up on time, set up anything we need to set up, make sure that a podcast makes money or gets some type of revenue, and responds to those questions and engages our audience. I was like, you want to give it a shot? And he goes, yeah, that sounds cool. What do I got to do? I don't really know. But here's 5 steps that we can do.
Right.
And here's what I'll pay. And you just, at some point, like, I know from Better at Beach how much certain things are worth after that experience. But at some point, you just have to, like, write a number down, no matter what you think it's worth or what you think it's not. And then have the faith in yourself to say, if you're overpaying, hey, thank you so much for your work. Can't afford it anymore because it didn't work out. And then have the faith in yourself to say, even though I overpaid for that for a few months, I know that if I take back that work, I can recover it. Right. And then you could also just hire somebody else. You could talk to them and be honest. But everybody I hire, I'm like real honest with. I go, if this doesn't work quickly, it can't continue. So I always start with a 3 or a 6 month contract.
It's a good idea.
That's it. Yeah. Everybody thinks about this whole like employee thing, and in my experience, I've been against it, and it's been 1099 for 3 months, or like one of those type contractors for 3 or 6 months, and then maybe we can move up to W-2, right? But you also have to be able to show me the work that you've done and explain it to me in a very clear way, and then have a couple meetings with me for practice or training.
Mm-hmm. No, that makes sense.
Yeah. We just let go of somebody who she couldn't show me the success that she had. I was like, this is what you're hired to do. Here were the goals. She's like, well, I sent you a video. I go, I still have 10 questions after that video because you're speaking. She was an expert. She's speaking like way above my head. I go, I don't know how to translate that into success, into what our numbers, into what our dollar values became. And it ended up that for whatever reason, she couldn't or didn't want to show me exactly what the numbers meant. I go, can't really continue until I know what your success is doing.
Right.
And a lot of things are tough to measure, like your blue carpet. That's one of those things that's tough to measure, but you have to try to attempt to find a way that goals are measured.
Right.
So, all right. Now, aside from the podcast and all, what do you think that there's anything? We talked about your weaknesses in terms of marketing weaknesses, things you're working on, or things that you need from people. Marketing, social media, email, right? And fortunately, ChatGPT and AI is now making that significantly easier and faster because you don't need a copywriter anymore. You have artificial intelligence that you can say, write me a 150-word advertisement for an adult beach volleyball league focusing on community and fitness. And you're set. You don't even need a copywriter anymore, and you can just churn this stuff out. But you still need somebody to direct that type of AI.
Right.
So you're looking for somebody who can take over marketing, sounds like somebody who's willing to sit down with people and train them and ask questions. Is that accurate?
So train who? Oh,
Well,
you mean
you
like
need somebody who...
What's that?
Yeah, the marketer. You need somebody who's, going to sit down with somebody and say, okay, what emails did you answer today?
Right.
Were they all the best way? Was there anything that you didn't know how to answer? And then we could lock that in.
Yeah.
Is that you're looking for somebody who's going to take over the marketing, and you might be looking for somebody who's just willing to sit down or has the time and capacity to sit down with the next people that you hire.
We talk about, can our business model afford to have like a manager, right? Like, can we have someone that manages the adult leagues and the juniors and the bar and the whatever? Or can we not really afford that middle man, right? Does it have to be, like the main operator? Maybe it's two people, maybe it's one, I don't know. And then do we hire, like all the smaller positions within, if that makes sense. But it's tough to know. I mean, I think there's two things that our business needs right now. And it's, how do we grow to have the numbers, right? Like, we need the numbers, right? We need the juniors and we need the adults to play in leagues. And then how do we make our operations smooth? Like, where, like you said, I think it's the training aspect, right? Of like, are the adult leagues trained? Is the social media and marketing, do they understand like what you're selling and what you're doing? And maybe these are maybe these are one of the same positions, maybe they're doing the same thing, because we can't really hire 5 new people, right?
Right. That's for a little bit, where they'll be kind of like you, but just with less tasks than you started with, like 2 less tasks. Right. And then once they get really good, or you find their passion or what they're crushing it at, then be like, let me offload these 3 for you to somebody else so that you can really crush that stuff.
Right. And I think, I don't know, my brain is in a lot of different directions, but I think we could contract someone to help us with our website, but maybe it's not like a permanent person. Like, hey, we're going to hire you for, 30 days to help us clean up our website and make it cleaner and smoother and make sure all the forms are in the right spot and super user friendly. When you go to sign up for a league, we don't get 20 calls a week because they weren't able to sign up because of their browser or something, right? Like, that happens all of the time, which I'm not sure we can eliminate that, because it might be this, like, not us. But yeah. And I say social media and marketing a lot because I think that's the number one way to make people know about us. So maybe they have creative messages that they can expand on that. So I don't know.
Let's just start writing some, when we get off here, the people that you meet, that you need, don't put it into a super artsy, perfectly crafted message. Write down the way that you're talking to me. Write down, I need somebody that's going to share our message for our volleyball thing, loves creating stuff on social media, and can help promote our community and advertise our services. Does anybody out there love this stuff and want a job? And that's one email, and that's a few social media posts by you. And all it is just a story, like, DM me, boom, done. Then your next one is going to be, we need a lead director. Does anybody want to start either training or learning how to direct our leagues? You'll get the people who are interested, who want to be a part of the community. But I think people get caught up in making this giant job description of like how to recruit rock stars. And I've seen these like 3-page job descriptions that people use. And the success that I've had has been, I hate making reels. Does anybody want to show up to the beach, video them, edit them, and post them? Do you love videography and editing? Please DM me.
Yes. I'm with.
And then
I have that
you sit down, you have this like 2-hour conversation, where we talk, like, and that's why like this podcast here, this is going to get chopped into something like maybe 200 pieces of content across different platforms. But none of that is going to be me because I suck at it. I hate it. Like my creativity is not at a very high level, but I like having conversations.
Right.
So I'm creating that environment for myself. And this is same way how we found, Jake, our producer. He said like he enjoys this stuff. And so it's great because he's going to be fulfilled in doing what he wants. And then I can do more of the stuff that I want without getting bogged down or slowed up.
Mm-hmm.
So make the messaging simple. Write down in 3 or 4 sentences, just say, I just need, as if you were talking to like one of your best friends or your mom or something, when she's like, how's this going? And you're in that exasperated situation and you go, I just need somebody who can X, and then throw that out into the universe and start having those conversations, and at the very least, you're going to learn how to explain that role to people. And then again, this is another like sheet or a tab on your Google Sheet where anytime they ask a question about that role, you copy paste that into the sheet. And then by explaining it to somebody and actually having that conversation, you've got your job description built for the next person.
Correct.
And you can do it a little cleaner.
Yeah. Nope. I like that.
Yeah. Simplicity.
Simplify. I need to simplify.
Yeah. And sometimes like simplifying can be one of the toughest things in the world, but usually it's just about starting, just doing something. And if you need help, you have to call for help.
Right.
Anything else for me, or any curiosities or questions or things that you wanted to talk about?
What have you found? I mean, our markets are a little different because you do bring people on, in person, obviously, but a lot of things, what you do is online. What have you found the most effective for marketing and social media for you? Like what gives you the biggest audience or like the biggest engagement? Is it a certain
engagement on volleyball?
No, on social media. So like in marketing, right? So is there a certain platform that blows out all the others? Is it email? Is it Instagram? Is it TikTok? I don't even know if you do TikTok, but like, have you found something that you feel like is the most effective, like hands down for you?
YouTube.
Okay.
For sure. YouTube. Because YouTube has acted so far, and things might change in the next 2 years, who knows? But YouTube has acted as forever marketing. And one person who was looking at me, he goes, you've built basically an infinite marketing machine where if any part of your business breaks, you still have everything else operating. So we've got a strong Instagram now. We've got a 12,000 Facebook group, 12,000 person Facebook group. We've got YouTube, which is a search engine. We've got our blogs, which we are trying to upgrade, update, and make them more powerful so that people can like ask the questions and then get to us. So what we did do well was anytime we made one piece of content, we go, how do we put this into another platform? Right. And for a while that becomes one person kind of chopping it up in all different ways. And now we're getting to the point where, all right, now we've got our YouTube people. Now we've got our podcast person. Now we've got our Instagram person. And we've got somebody monitoring all of the Facebook stuff. So we've grown to the point where, all right, we're getting one person on each platform. To do all of them for one person, I think is really difficult. It's not impossible. You're just going to move slow. My recommendation would be to kick ass on one platform. To me, I think YouTube is really valuable because people are searching it, but you have a different business because we can market to people globally. And that does help. I think some more of your focus might be on local SEO and ads because you want to say like, what to do on Friday night. What's there to do in Westfield on Friday night? Adult sports leagues in Westfield on Friday night. You can crush that SEO, which is search engine optimization, which is like helps people find you. for your website?
We haven't really explored that. We have people like SEO experts reach out to us all the time, but we've never done any more than just, you search us on the
second
website.
Job post.
What's that?
So you got your second job post. And these people might be the same person.
Yeah.
They might be like, oh, I was digital marketing master's degree. Like I can do SEO, which would crush your YouTube, crush your website. And then they're a digital marketer and they like enjoy making videos. So now they can just chuck that stuff onto Instagram.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah. So for us, it was definitely YouTube was our biggest thing, and it's our strongest thing. And that's allowed us to continue doing all of the others, and we just post relentlessly.
Yes,
we
do.
Just make sure that we're posting.
We need to post more relentlessly.
Yep. We'll give you a bunch of the content from this. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your goal has got to be put out that help wanted message, and that's got to be step one.
No, I agree with you.
You can't get frozen there. That will lead you to the conversations and phone calls that you're like, okay, it doesn't sound like you can do exactly what we need. Or, yeah, it does. How much do you need for 3 months? Oh, that's way too much. Do you have a different package?
Right.
That's all. And then you say no, and then you've got your cap.
Right.
But each step you learn.
Right. No, I agree. Sometimes you just we talk about our needs, and then you just have to do it. Because, I have 1,000 things in my brain right now of like building a building, signing a new lease, getting new, signing a new operating agreement. And then my brain
being a mom of 5.
Yeah. Yes. Then we switch back to operations and like, how do I grow our juniors and what coaches are we going to hire? And, we have to do our finances and I need to talk to our accountant and, we have to do the adult leagues and what, so it's like definitely compartmentalizing is something, and like stepping away from certain areas is definitely going to be a positive thing. So.
Yeah. All right. To me, it's easy homework, and I should see like on your Instagram within a day, there should be some sort of call for help for what activities you need. And then I want you to text me and let me know, like, did anybody get back to you? No? Okay. Did you post again 2 days later?
Right.
Like, what is it? 90% of your audience won't see that one post.
Right.
And it's not an engaging post, which means your algorithm won't send it to show people, because it's not like, oh, super interesting. People are watching it and loving it and sharing it.
Right.
Right. Like, chuck that thing up there again and again and again. And then make sure that you just use that exact same typing for an email and say, help wanted on your subject line.
I like it. I'm on it. I'm going to report back.
Cool. Nice.
We'll make animal. All right. Well, thank you for spending your evening with me.
Yeah, you're welcome. This was fun.
All right.
I enjoyed it. And then, reach out to me on the side and let me know any other questions or things that you just want to spitball. And what I do want you to do is, if you can, if anybody's listening to this and we get this posted relatively quickly, what's the best way to reach out to you? Because maybe there is, listening here, some amazing SEO person, somebody who loves social media and loves volleyball, or just loves you and wants to work. So what's the best way to reach out?
ibeach31.com.
Email ibeach31.com. And what's your Instagram?
So
we'll put it in the show notes too.
Instagram is, that's terrible. It's, I never look at it, but so our Facebook is ibeach31 and our Instagram is, ibeach31 beach volleyball. It's just
okay.
ibeach31. Our Instagram's ibeach31. Yeah.
Cool. We'll talk about SEO stuff on the back end, but I want you to see if you can think of some names that would automatically attract or wake up somebody to what you do, where you do it. Because right now, when I see iBeach31, I don't know where you are, where you're located, what it is. So even if I stumbled on your Instagram account, is it telling me, oh, wait, this is beach volleyball in Indiana, in Westfield? Like something about that profile and the name, it would be helpful to make sure. And I'm not saying ditch iBeach 31. I'm just saying that like in your profile, the settings and everything, when somebody looks at your profile, they should see, oh, beach volleyball in Indiana.
Yeah,
cool.
It says iBeach 31 beach volleyball, outdoor beach volleyball in Westfield, Indiana. We should have all that in there.
Good. All right. So, iBeach 31, reach out to her if you guys just want to talk to her, if you want to pick her brain, or if you know that you can help her out.